Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Henry Ford College Board of Trustees meeting on November 20th. It is 7:01. I'm going to call this meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barry?
Here.
Trustee D'Ambrosio?
Here.
Trustee McDonald?
Here.
Trustee Moses?
Here.
Trustee Petchikoff?
Here.
Trustee Watts? Here. Chair Thorpe?
Here. Next item.
Approval of minutes for the following Board of Trustees meetings. Regular Board of Trustees meeting, October 16th, 2023. Board of Trustees Audit Committee meeting, October 16th, 2023. Recommended action, make any necessary corrections and move to approve these minutes.
So move. Support.
Motion by Trustee D'Ambrosio, support by Trustee Petlicoff. Any corrections to the minutes that we need to address? If there are none, may I attach a unanimous roll? Please do so. Next item.
Recognition and acknowledgements.
Thank you, President Cavallina.
Call me Russ.
Okay. Thank you, Russ. Chairman Thorpe and members of the board. My name is Alejandro Bueno, and I'm currently in my second semester at Henry Ford College, where I'm majoring in graphic design and illustration. I reside in Dearborn Heights, having moved here from the small town of Port Huron just over a year ago. This year has been a milestone for me, and since coming to Henry Ford College, I've realized that this is a second chance for me to experience new things and to do things that I've never done before. I've joined various clubs at HFC, but there was one that stood out to me: mindfulness. It was something that I was passionate about from the very beginning, and so I became the vice president of that club. After a semester, I was nominated to be president of the Mindfulness Club, and it changed my outlook completely. I had never taken a leadership role before, but my passion for mental health awareness, self-care, and growth was greater than my fears. I came up with the slogan, growing, learning, healing, together, because I wanted to connect the members of the club with these important values of life. We are always growing and learning from our experiences, and by sharing them, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and inspire or heal one another. This is what I held on to when I took this role, and it's what I will continue to do in the coming semesters. I knew I was doing something right when I was nominated and recognized by Student Activities as Student of the Month for my leadership skills and my willingness to collaborate and build relationships with students and clubs throughout campus. And I want to take this time to give my thanks to the faculty, the students, and friends who have supported me in every way possible. As I move forward with my plans and endeavors, I will continue to walk with creativity, gratitude, and passion for life, always growing, learning, healing. Now I'm pleased to read this month's HFC Board acknowledgements. Congratulations to Chancey Willis Jr., HFC basketball player who was named MCCAA Eastern Conference Player of the Week. He averaged 26.5 points per game, 4.5 assists, and 3.5 rebounds in 2 games against Butler County Community College and Link Gear Prep Academy. The HFC Roller Hockey Club has been ranked 3rd in the National Collegiate Roller Hockey Association Top 25 Power Rankings. The Power Rankings establish the top 25 teams in the country, regardless of division. For the second straight year, Henry Ford is the only community college competing in the NCRHA. Joseph Consensa, Chief de Cuisine, faculty at HFC, received an email about our hospitality students. Executive Chef Sean J. Loving CMC commended the hospitality students on the phenomenal job working the back of the Detroit Athletic Club on September 30th, 2023. Sean was extremely impressed with their professionalism and attention to detail, along with their desire to learn. Being present in the moment is a rare gift, and I believe it comes from how they are being instructed. So kudos to you and your entire program for excellence. Sean has extended the opportunity of a job working in his kitchen to our students. Congratulations to the Hospitality Studies program. And thank you for the opportunity to be this month's reader. Do you have any questions I can answer for you?
Great job, Alejandro.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming to us from Port Huron. How has your transition been?
It has been a big change. Again, coming from Port Huron, 28 years of my life to a bigger city like this in Dearborn, it has been a really big change for me as far as the amount of opportunities that are greater here than a smaller town like Port Huron. And I'm very thankful for, not only being able to come here to HFC, but like other opportunities that present themselves.
Like a mindfulness club.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes.
leading that, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much.
Any other questions from the trustees? Trustee Watts?
So you may have mentioned this, but what semester are you in?
This is my second semester.
And what are you planning to do after HFC?
Right now, I haven't really thought about any type of future plans with my degree. I just know that I really enjoy art. I really enjoy creating, and I feel like it's the right, I guess, course of plan that I'm going into. I know that my art teachers have constantly talked about CCS and Wayne State, and they're really trying to like get me to look into all of these other options. But I'm like, let me just let me just take the time to be in the present moment so like I can figure things out on my own and to try and do that on my own time.
So I will say that your presence here, the way that you present yourself, you have such positive and calm energy.
Thank you.
So I think part of it goes obviously back to your mindfulness, but you had said something really important about being vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think that is something many of us struggle with.
Yes.
But I would say that if your professors or instructors are saying CCS,
Yeah.
I can see you doing art therapy because you do have
Thank
such
you.
a calm sense that I think
Thank
you
you.
have such great talents that definitely perhaps lean into that vulnerability a little bit.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Trustee McDonald?
I agree with what Trustee Watts just said. But Alejandro, you talked about the opportunities that coming to a larger place has offered you. Just let me know, I'm curious, have you felt, I know it's very different, because I had a similar experience myself when I was younger, but have you felt welcomed, not just at the college, but at the community, or overwhelmed, or a little of both? Kind of tell us about that experience.
It definitely, going into the transition, it was a bit overwhelming. I knew at the time when we were moving, I knew that it was the right decision to move and such, and I kind of was already, in a sense, to get ready for that transition. So coming here, I was like, wow, there's a lot of traffic. Coming from a small town, like you think like, traffic there is nothing compared to, Detroit, around here, Telegraph. But as far as like community-wise, again, I've even done stuff outside of school and stuff the people here, I feel, are very, very different and welcoming, especially in a sense where it's like I can go up and like I can actually talk to somebody, and then like we can talk for like, you know, I guess in a sense like hours, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta go, like, you know, like, so definitely the people here, especially like in Dearborn, like has been very open and very like community based. So I do really enjoy that a lot.
Good. And I see a lot of leadership opportunities for you in your future.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Pelichkov?
This kind of tags along with Trustee McDonald's question, but I'm sure you probably had some kind of impression of where you were moving to,
Yeah,
from things you Googled,
yeah.
whatever stories you've heard. What were the biggest surprises and what were the biggest challenges that you faced that you hadn't anticipated or changed your viewpoint of what you were going to be confronted with?
I think it was like getting around like the area, you know, coming from a new, you know, obviously bigger city, you know, I don't know the roads, I don't know, you know, like I don't know. So like thankfully,
logistics,
thankfully GPS like is my best friend. But I think like in another aspect, like I think something that I was very surprised about is, again, because coming from a small town, there isn't a lot of job opportunities. There isn't, you know, again, I'm very grateful for the college that I went there, but it didn't have as many, you know, options that HFC or these surrounding colleges had. And so going into that, I was like, I was very grateful and very like happy about like all of that type of opportunity. And I guess that's it surprised me with the amount of, you know, different things that I could get into, or different things that I could try, or different clubs that I could join, or stuff like that. Because again, unfortunately my college did not have, you know, those kinds of options.
Great. I'm glad you're taking advantage
Yeah.
of exploring all
Yeah.
those opportunities that
Of
you
course.
haven't been exposed to before.
Yeah.
It's a great time to challenge yourself and a great time to find a path that you might not have even thought about.
Yeah, of course.
Alejandro, has there been any staff here, any instructional or support staff that are making a big difference in your educational journey?
There, my psychology teacher that I had this past semester, I know he probably would say otherwise, that I was the quietest one in that class. I think it was because everybody else was very loud. But his name was Professor Olive, Sam Olive. He really, he was the kind of teacher that I could see, and I love seeing, who are very passionate about teaching, very passionate about, you know, their work. And when I did my presentation on mindfulness and the importance of meditation, he was all there for it. He supported me, you know, through all of that. So it was really nice to, again, to have that type of recognition, you know, student-teacher relationship, to understand the importance of that, and to again, to have that kind of like passionate feeling of teaching and giving to the students.
Great. Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Thank you for your time today. You are welcome to leave the meeting if you prefer.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a nice week.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Next item?
President's items?
Thank you, Madam Secretary, trustees. Good to see you all again, and welcome to Thanksgiving week. I want to wish all of you happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll all watch another Lions victory like we saw last night.
Hopefully not just the way we saw it last night.
Yes. And because we have varying allegiances on this board for the other often followed football teams, I'll just say I hope every team wins this weekend from our great state. Trustee McDonald, last time we met, you were unfortunately unable to be with us, so I will repeat what I said when you were not with us last time. Happy birthday. I hope you had a wonderful birthday. I know you were someplace that generally has warmer temperatures and more sun, and I hope you got both. But we were thinking about you a month ago during your birthday. I want to praise some of my teammates, trustees. First, I don't know if I saw her here, but Tracy Davis was noted in Crane's Business Detroit as a notable leader in DEI, and I want to compliment you all for your wisdom in hiring her for that role, because she's already being noted as a leader across our region. And of course, Crane's is a business publication, so it's particularly useful and I think important that not just academics are, it's always great to have academics recognizing academics, but to have one of our most important segments, our business partners, recognize one of our teammates is particularly nice, which is a nice transition to the compliments I want to pay towards two other teammates that I do see. One is Cindy Scheuer and one is Dr. Michael Nealon, because they have been working really, really hard to deliver what we believe is the first in the state and maybe in the nation, an agreement where our nursing students will be able to, if they meet certain academic benchmarks, be guaranteed employment at Corewell Health, and also earn a significant grant of tuition or education support during their curriculum here at Henry Ford College. And then on top of that, what is also a very exciting new field that we believe possibly replicable is that these students will have more intentional opportunities to learn while in the field while they are in our curriculum, which will give them a better learning environment, but also help us alleviate one of the difficulties, which is finding sufficient numbers of educated and experienced teachers. And getting that in the field seems like the proverbial two turkeys with one stone. Nothing on that, Dad joke?
I was going to say, I'm
It
not
took an
really.
extra second or two to figure out that you're substituting turkey for bird.
Okay.
We'll
All right.
allow it.
Dad jokes aside, Dean Scheuer and Vice President Nealon have been working this. Dr. Nealon and I were at what I think was at the still Beaumont Dearborn. It might have been a year and a half ago we were there with this idea that we had the opportunity to give them what they needed, which was talented workforce. And it just would not have come to fruition if it were not for Dr. Nealon and Cindy Scheuer going back and back and back to get this agreement. We're really excited that we're going to make this announcement, as I've told you all trustees, on the same day as your next Board of Trustees meeting here. We're going to be making that announcement, I believe, here. And the Lieutenant Governor will be here to help us announce what is a really exciting opportunity to say to students that come to Henry Ford College. Not only will we give you a great education, we'll pave the path to you for a meaningful career at an employer who you know and trust in your own community. And that announcement will be really exciting and wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the help of Amy Clark nailing down the legal angles that took a lot of back and forth between Corewell, which, by the way, folks, that's the largest employer in the state of Michigan. It is a conglomerate for which they are a great partner, but you've got Amy Clark and her army of one, and Corewell with a few more lawyers. Not that it was antagonistic, but lawyers have different opinions about things. And then, of course, Rhonda DeLong is going to be helping us make this announcement. What we hope is both an exhibition on how proud we are of our teammates and our students, but also something that audiences beyond Dearborn will see Henry Ford College as the leader in this space. So just when you see them, folks, please tell them that you agree with me that they've really done great work, and it's gone on a long time to get to the finish line. And if you don't see them before, please consider coming and joining us in the middle of the day on the 11th of December when we make that announcement. Dr. Nealon is in for more compliments because since the last time we met, he's nailed down 2 more agreements in what he's described, and I think in a catchy way, the Learn Forward agreements, which you've got pictures on the wall there that symbolize when students come to Henry Ford College, the majority of them want to transfer to a four-year institution to achieve what is the gold standard of a better life and a better community, and that is achieving a bachelor's degree. But to get to those institutions to achieve that bachelor's degree, it can be rather hard. And one of the hurdles is asking for permission. Another hurdle is losing the valuable credits earned at Henry Ford College. And these agreements that Dr. Nealon and Amy Clark have worked so hard to accomplish take those hurdles and nearly eliminate them. If a student from Henry Ford College accomplishes a certain grade point average and an associate degree here at Henry Ford College, they no longer have to wonder whether they'll lose credits, nor do they have to wonder if they belong at that university. And in addition to U of M Dearborn and Wayne State University, because of Dr. Nealon's work, we are now ready to be announcing that Eastern Michigan University and Davenport University are two more agreements. And I'll just tell you, trustees, you can go around the state from the top of the mitten to the Upper Peninsula and back, and you can ask anyone you want who has any association with a community college, how many of your universities guarantee admission to your graduates? And I know of no other community college, and now we can say that we have 4 partners. Rhonda DeLong is working with Eastern Michigan and Davenport when we announce those agreements, but those are other really, really important advancements that are right in line with our strategic plan and simply would not have happened without the dogged determination of Dr. Nealon and Amy Clark. So thank you both for that effort. One more kudos, and that is related to your action item number 6, which is about $180,000 of furniture we want to buy for Henry Ford College. Now, I rarely advocate for action items, but I think this one will make you smile, and I hope you'll vote in favor of this, because that's a lot of furniture. And so, you know, you've got a new person sitting at the table here with you in Patty Flogus, and when I saw that come across the table, I said, that's a lot of furniture. What are they going to do with all the furniture that's going to replace? And another, you know, the hallmark of working at Henry Ford College is working really hard and doing a lot more with a lot less than all of our competitors. And that's why Patty's doing such a great job, because I said, hey, can you find out, are we going to give that to someplace? Are we going to repurpose it here at HFC? Or please tell me we're not going to melt it down or let it collect dust somewhere. And you might imagine there's quite a bit of rigmarole there, but through her own determination, she organized a way to find your colleagues, as Trustee Barry says, on the other side of Michigan Avenue, who will be the ones getting, I don't know, Patty, you sent me some pictures. It looked like probably hundreds of chairs, maybe 50s and 60s of tables that'll be going into the Dearborn Public Schools. Now, you know, we're not forcing them to take them, and we want these new tables and chairs to come to our students at HFC, but I'm just really excited that the teams who are under Dr. Maleko did raise their hand. In fact, here before you all voted on the new furniture. So we had to tell them today, hold on, you know, we got to get the board to approve buying new furniture, then we got to get the new furniture, then you can have this furniture. But it's another example, if you all approve action item number 6, of our institutions working together to support each other. And I'm proud to say we're going to be able to have that transfer, and it's going to be an improvement through what we've done in the past.
Well, can I just make a comment as a City Beautiful Commissioner Emeritus? Reduce, reuse, recycle. So we're proud that we're not just trashing.
Yes, yes. I'm glad to hear that there's actually, it sounds like in Dr. Maleko we may have a little issue on our hands. There may be more folks that want them than chairs to go around. Last 2 items. I want to give you an update on enrollment. You know, we watch it very closely. We're the institution with near the highest percentage of our revenue comes from enrollment of all the community colleges. There's only one that sometimes has a higher percentage, but we're up there with that institution every year. We track our enrollment, as you know, by semester, and each of the 2 larger semesters are fall and winter, and we're tracking right now how we're doing for enrollment in the winter coming up on 2024, and we track it by day, where we were a year ago today and where we are today. And the metric that counts for revenue is credit hours, and that's the one I look the closest at, and that's the one I report to you out very often on. And so you probably have heard me say it 100 times, Our goal was to not continue a slide that began with the pandemic, and so that our goal was to stay flat from last year. And flat would be about 101,000 credit hours. Right now, as of today, we're at 76,000 credit hours. So we're 3/4 of our way to our goal. And if you compare that to where we were last year at this time, we're up 13%. So we've got to continue to keep pushing. As you recall, we ended for the fall that we're in now, we were up by almost 2% on enrollment, and we're hoping that this next cycle for fall or for winter will continue to be up. And that's just from the great work that many people do, but also the work that Holly Diamond and Rhonda DeLong have taken on, and Lori Gonko with marketing, enrollment services, and advising. All of those departments have seen significant reallocation of focus and assets, and I think we're now starting to see, in fact, I know we're now starting to see the fruits of that. The last thing I have, and then I'll take questions, trustees, is that a PowerPoint presentation that you have paper copies in front of you, and Vice President DeLong is going to help me with this, and it relates to the Southeast Michigan Student Success Center that I do know you trustees, you probably could recite that name in the back of your sleep because I've said it so many times. John Setkowski's been the one that's been helping me, and I think we started this in 2020, John. I think it was the summer of the first summer of the pandemic when the federal money started coming, and we started saying Henry Ford College needs to have a student success center on our campus. And we're getting close to having something for you trustees that what this might look like. So the next slide shows you what our campus looked like about 5 years ago, and it looks generally the same. This was taken by a drone 5 years ago, but I want to focus your attention on the right-hand side, which is that road. Well, that road looks like it's in better shape than it was 5 years ago. This may be more recent. In any event, that's Evergreen going north and south on the right-hand side of this photograph. And as you see, it comes to the bottom of the page. About halfway down the road is a very large clump of trees there. And that is the site of our intended location for the Southeast Michigan Student Success Center. And if we're able to do that, you can see that we would be removing 2 large buildings on our campus. And it's hard to point them out here, but the next slide gives you some better way to see that. This is a diagnostic from a bird's eye view. And that circled area is where I just described. Now, encased in that circled area is a long, narrow building. That's the old administration building, and that is one of the buildings that, if this project were to go forward, would be raised, along with the building just below it and to the left. And if you look at the next slide, you'll see that what we would replace them with, and that is the Southeast Michigan Student Success Center. A replacement of that large building in the middle of the campus would contain a large number of liberal arts supportive areas, including classrooms and faculty areas. We've moved the Welcome Center away from the corner of our campus right there into an area where people would be able to interact directly with the campus from Evergreen, and they would be able to move seamlessly from a one-stop enrollment area, and as they walked in, they'd walk in kind of going down from that A in liberal arts. They'd walk into that area marked welcome. They could go left. And by the way, that would be elevated, so there'd be a walkover there. They could go left into an enrollment area and a very nice front door to Evergreen, which we don't have, and then or to the right, which would also be enrollment, and then that is the library, and where our hope is to make that a first-class learning commons. This is all draft form, but I wanted you all trustees to see a bit of what this would be. The part that says academic support, it's not quite, at least my eyes can't read it, but on your paper, trustees, you can see academic support. That's where the early college is right now, in the basement. And if we did this proposal, we'd be quickly moving to Dr. Maleko and asking him to purchase the remaining 2 parts of the current Welcome Center in the northwest corner of our campus and move the early college, which is currently space constrained, to that area of the Welcome Center, and then make all those Welcome Center support staff positions right here on the main campus. The reason I'm showing you all, but the last thing I'll say on this is, you'll see the campus quad. That's the area that'd be freed up by the liberal arts building being torn down. And as you remember, that's kind of a sunken courtyard where it says events there. And so our vision is to have a sloping lawn there that feeds into an amphitheater where we could have outdoor functions, including outdoor commencement, where people could go to their commencement where they went to college, which is not something we can do right now. None of this is set in stone, but I think you deserve to actually see what we're thinking about doing in the next year and a half. And one of the main parts of this is the budget that John Satkowski outlined. John outlined the budget that we talked about, and this is also in keeping with what our state of Michigan gave us in a $10 million grant to set up this Student Success Center. What we worked so hard from philanthropy to get $5 million to support our programmatic aspects of student success. What Senator Stabenow delivered in a $3 million grant, and what Debbie Dingell delivered in a $2 million grant, and what we're knocking on the door and almost at the finish line, we're hopeful for an announcement soon, as a grant from the county. We can meet those monies from outside of our county, from outside of our city, and we can deliver what our community desperately needs, which is an update to the main liberal arts building. And we've set out a way to deliver a real community benefit in the budgeting that we've talked about. So I thought you all deserved to see what this could look like. Of course, what we need to do is to get our budget set, and if it is set by the way Vice President Satkowski and I outlined last time we were together, this is just the very beginnings of what our campus could look like. And I cannot explain to you how excited I am about it. And that leads me to probably ramble on, so I'll stop and take any questions you have on anything about that or anything else.
Any questions for President Cavalluna? Trustee Moses?
President, if all of this funding comes to fruition, when do you foresee the buildings to be up and running?
Yeah, the first thing we'd have to do is begin demolition. If you could go back to one, go forward one. Can you run your cursor over? Yeah, all right, so we got to demolish that building, Trustee Moses, and then demolish that building. Because most of the new building will be in the circle there, we've contemplated demolishing the smaller of the two buildings and beginning construction at the same time there, and then simultaneously demolishing the, and I have to say, when I see that building, I like to say the word demolish. I have students whose parents, probably grandparents, learned in that building. We would like to start demolition at the very latest by the end of the summer of '24. Construction has been, it used to be somewhat, not easy, but doable to gauge that, but because of the pandemic, it's taken us far longer than we thought to do the extension of the tech building. But as you probably know, Trustee Moses, I'm not strong in my patience. I would expect us to be able to have, I want to have that, if we ask the voters to approve 4 mills, and if that's approved and the board approves the budget that we proposed last when we came back together, I would really like us to be summer of '25 with this done.
Follow-up question to that one. Would there be room on the campus if we were demolishing the liberal arts building before the new building is ready, or does the liberal arts building need that space until the other one's up and running?
It's a great question. There's two answers. It's possible that the liberal arts function of the Student Success Center could answer the question as we're demolishing the current liberal arts building, but I think that's unlikely. And so if I'm right that it's unlikely, then we could do, right now we have two options or a hybrid of the two options. One is to do what we learned we could do in March of 2020, which is take those classes, the vast majority of which are not classroom intensive, and move them into some type of online format. The other option would be to go to our neighbors to our south who have said they have space and that they are interested in letting us use at a cost. U of M Dearborn has a satellite campus right behind the Fairlane Club.
Yeah.
That the chancellor has said he's interested in finding ways for us to make use of that. Of course, another least good option is module classrooms for classrooms that have to be on ground, that cannot be in this picture and cannot be in borrowing space from or renting space from U of M Dearborn.
Trustee Pelichkov?
At the same time, are we coordinating, because the early college is also part of this demo process, and we've just purchased the portion that we have to get ready for those students? Are we coordinating this kind of concept so that we know that we have a place to move these students while this is going on, that we're ready at the other building for them?
The short answer is yes, but the coordination can't get off the starting gate until a few things happen. One is the district needs to know that we're going to sell them the other parts of that building and move the early college there. That can't happen until we know that we've set up a financial matrix to deliver this project. That can't happen until this board decides if we're going to ask the voters to renew our millage, and the voters then decide whether the millage is renewed. And if those gates all are passed, then what would have to happen is the district would have to buy the remaining part of the Welcome Center, refurbish it to be prepared for what they want to do with it. And by the way, they're planning to do that with the two parts of it that they've already agreed to buy, and that we're just waiting.
I think I'm
to close
aware
on.
of it, yeah.
Yeah. But the space in the Welcome Center that the Henry Ford College staff currently occupy, they won't be able to vacate that until, next slide, until the Student Success Center's there. So that bringing all those Welcome Center staff members back to main campus, and I only say that in part of a joke because they're on main campus technically, but they're so far away. Bringing them to this building is what would have to happen first before the early college could go out there. So what I probably should have answered it the opposite way, but I broke down the steps backwards. But the answer is yes, we are coordinating.
Any additional questions for President Cavaluna on this item or others?
I would just recommend, we do have a building and site committee, and as we progress and see some of these ducks in the row fall into place after February, if this millage renewal is approved and we're ready to, that we should utilize them to help present some of the preemptive process so that they can then forward that back to the full board on a timely basis to help kind of coordinate this conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right, and during my tenure, the Building and Site Committee for the college hasn't met.
Right.
And this is a great example of where, if there are two Building and Site Committees, one for the P12 and one for the college, this seems like an opportunity for them to work together.
All right, anything else? Thank you very much for the updates. Next item.
Next item, action item, citizen participation. We have no blue cards.
All right, next item.
Next item, are there any action items on this agenda which board members or the president wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the action items below.
We would like to pull action item 8 for a separate vote and discussion. Any additional items that trustees have questions on or would like pulled?
I just have comments on item 9.
All right. But you're right, leaving it in the main motion.
Sure, yeah.
All right,
Recommended, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Recommended action, move to approve action items numbered 1 through 9 as recommended in this agenda, except for 8.
So moved?
Support.
Motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Petlicoff. Trustee Moses, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just hoping that when we ask the voters, that we clearly state why we combine the three mills and the windmill, and present the projects as presented in this meeting.
Anything additional?
So,
Thank you very much. Any other item for discussion before a vote on the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Trustee Watts, could you read the recommended action item for number 8, please?
Yep. Recommended action, move to approve the tuition approval policy as presented at the August 14th, 2023, and as amended and presented at the October 16th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting.
Would somebody like to make a motion for this item?
So moved.
Could I make a comment before we move to action on that?
I was going to do it during discussion.
Fair enough.
All right. Trustee
I moved.
Petlicoff made the motion.
I'll support.
Trustee D'Ambrosio for the support. All right. Go for it.
Vice President DeLong, could you pull up that document I sent you? Trustees, I apologize. What I've given you in your packet here is not what you last saw. This is the document that was the first round after trustees asked for changes. So what I've asked Vice President DeLong to do is to pull up the version that you last saw that was emailed to you on, I believe it was the 16th of October. The 6th of October. So the version that was emailed, that we discussed at your last board meeting and that was emailed to you before that last board meeting, spoke to several of the concerns, and I'm going to walk through them for you when Vice President DeLong pulls them up. There were a couple concerns that the last draft touched on. One was the need for, or the request for the president of the college to have an obligation to update the board on comparisons with tuition at other institutions. There was also a concern about the timing of when this board would get information about what the consumer price index is at the time and what it would do to tuition under this policy. And then there was also a concern that was associated with this policy being up for analysis and potential revision or amendment or in any regard. And that was described in our last board meeting as a sunset provision, and that was also added. Disregard the paper that you have in front of you as that's an old draft. What it reads that you'd be voting on, and that is what you're voting on here because the action item notes as amended by your last board meeting. The changes, one of them is the college will provide the board with notice of applicable annual CPI rate on or about February 1st of each year. And what I'm reading from is the second paragraph under item V. The college will provide the board with notice of applicable annual CPI rate on or about February 1st of each year. Along with the notice, the board will receive from the president or designee a report of the new tuition rates which reflect the CPI adjustment. If the board does not take any action on the new tuition rates, effective in the fall semester, the new tuition rates will apply. So that is the language that kind of gave voice to the concerns that were raised about when will the board get this information. The next item reads, on an annual basis, the college will provide the board with the tuition rates of community colleges with comparable student enrollments. And then the next line reads, any departure from this policy must be approved by the board at the next public meeting after the board receives the CPI rate change and related documents. And then the last line, which addressed the concern of a sunset provision, reads, the board will review this policy every 2 years to determine whether it should continue or be modified. So that was the first paragraph I read to you, trustees. The February 1st date, and that the president is obligated to explain this. And then if you go down to the next paragraph, which is on the beginning of the next page, this is what I just read to you, trustees. Annual basis, the college will provide the board with tuition rates of community colleges and comparable institutions. That this policy will effectively self-execute if the board doesn't do anything after having received the CPI report. And then the sunset provision is there. One trustee asked me to explain the second to last paragraph there. Any departure from this policy must be approved by the board at the next public meeting after the board receives the CPI rate change and related documents. And I want to be responsive to that, trustee, about how this would work if the board were to receive the CPI report from my office and how it would change tuition. And then at the next board meeting, the board wanted to, or at least if any board member wanted to try to execute that second to last paragraph there. The way that I envision that would happen would be that trustee would say, I don't want this policy to self-execute. The president has told us that the CPI is X and it'll do Y to tuition rates, and I don't think we should do that. I move that we not follow this policy. Like any other thing that this board would have the authority to do, that motion would require a second. And if it did have a second, the chair would call for discussion. And if that motion carried the majority of a board that had quorum, then this policy wouldn't take effect. And whatever that motion dictated would go into effect. Now, if I believe if the motion just said, I don't want to follow policy and stopped there, then I think the president would be obligated to come back and say, okay, well, this policy doesn't apply. Now I have to come back to the board if I want them to change tuition in any regard. So I wanted to be responsive to anyone who wondered how, if the board decided it didn't want to follow this policy, how that would happen.
So a couple of questions for you on that. Following that chain of thought, if a motion was brought and either there's no support or the motion was defeated, then the policy would stand and the tuition increase would go in the way it's written.
Mm-hmm.
If there was support and the board voted to, in my eyes, suspend the policy, it won't necessarily do away with it, but it would suspend it for that time period, we would still need another proposal for the administration for the board to vote on what increase might occur. Does that sound correct?
Well,
Yeah.
what action would be taken, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if the administration thought, well, hey, the board has rejected whatever the CPI dictated under this policy, then I think the ball is back in the administration's court. Of course, the board could on its own say, well, this policy gave you CPI, but we think you need a little bit less than that, so we're just going to give you this. And as is always the case, with what you all give the institution in tuition, we set a budget and bring it back to you. So there is no time, I just want to be real clear, there is no time where this board hasn't got at least 2 bites at the apple to dictate the way we raise and spend money. So no matter what you do with this policy, we always, and will continue to always, come back to you with a budget that you can also say, well, I don't like that about this budget, and that, of course, the major part of the revenue in that any budget is a tuition revenue.
Now, the other thing would be, once the information is delivered to the trustees, but before it is brought forward as an action item, trustees could be communicating amongst themselves and say that, you know what, we don't want the CPI, we want this number. So we could already have that as the agenda item instead of the policy then, too.
Yeah, in fact, on that point, you all could change, I would highly recommend against it. I would beg you not to do it, but you could change tuition right now. Tuition is you have autonomy on tuition. This cannot and will not change that.
Okay. Additional discussion for this action item? Are we Trustee Moses?
I just want to make sure that I'm on the record. I think last meeting minutes unfortunately didn't include this, so I want to make sure that my stand on this is reflective on the next meeting minutes. This policy is not needed. I believe that we should always be presented with information about the increase to tuition, and that number should be clear to the public, to the students, to the taxpayers. And we should vote that on an annual basis, as we have done in the past. So I'm totally not in favor of this policy change. There's another implication, which is if we change policy, I think our bylaws state that it takes 2 meetings to change a policy. So I'm not sure about suspending a policy. This is the first time that I hear of this. So that's a separate concern for anything that we bring forward and we say, well, it just takes a motion to suspend things. So we have to take that into consideration.
Thank you. Additional discussion for this item? All right, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee D'Ambrosio?
Yes.
Trustee McDonald?
Yes.
Trustee Moses?
No.
Trustee Petrichoff?
Yes.
Trustee Watts? Yes. Chair Thorpe?
Yes, motion carries. Next item?
Next item, acknowledgement of correspondence.
We got a
Yes, we,
invitation to a pinning ceremony.
is that what it is? I hadn't opened it up yet.
I took a quick peek.
Without looking, was it Karnak that used to be, Friday, December 8th?
15.
Oh, I missed
You're
it by a
close.
week.
Missed it up by a week.
But it's here on campus, in the gymnasium like we've done for the last couple of years. Great.
You're no Karnak.
Yeah, I know. I'm all right with that. All right, I can't recall any other correspondence, any other trustees know of any. All right, next item.
Board committee reports. I'll just go ahead. Policy had met earlier today. There were 3 policies that we had reviewed. Policy number 4850. That was a discussion, just updating some verbiage regarding reimbursement for moving and travel expenses for administrators. The second policy was policy number 4100, titled Degrees Recognized in the Instructional Salary Schedule. The added verbiage was to make sure that there wasn't a conflict between this policy and the collective bargaining agreement. And the last policy was 5100, and just changing the vernacular from guidelines to procedures. And just for review, the college uses procedures where the school board, the P12 uses guidelines. So just changing those, that verbiage. The other thing that we discussed was an update as to the timeframe. Just to remind all the trustees, we have Dickinson Law Group coming through and reviewing all of our policies and giving us clusters, so to speak. With those, it might just have some minimal verbiage that needs to be changed versus going on to the next one. So we are about guessing 30% through our policies, and the next grouping that's going to be coming through will be policies that focus on operational and financial policies. And then we had also discussed, I know you had mentioned thoughts about what policy we would want a separate policy committee for the P12 versus the college, and I think we had shared with you that we see the value in maintaining the same members for both.
Fair enough.
Was there anything else I missed?
You just may want to speak to what you had brought up, the observation that while we're in the process of going through all of the policies, sometimes the policy numbers.
Yes, I think that, so that's the other thing, is that some of the policy numbers aren't necessarily lining up. So the idea would be to get through all of them, and then the policy numbers may change going forward. So not to be surprised, but that's something that's going to be part of the edits and cleaning up all the policies.
All right. Any other committees? All right, next item.
Request for information and/or future agenda items.
Hearing none. Next item.
Board member commentary.
Moving on.
Future meeting dates, Monday, November 20th, 2023, P12 Board Study Session immediately following the HFC Board of Trustees meeting at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Cabinet Conference Room. Monday, December 4th, 2023, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. And Monday, December 11th, 2023, HFC Board of Trustees meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Services and Conference Center in the Rosenau Boardroom.
All right, anyone that is planning to stick around for the study session, we're going to be doing about a 10-minute recess, or a 10-minute break before we start that meeting. If not, we wish you all a great Thanksgiving. We hope you get a chance to spend it with friends, family, and those that you want to. And go local football teams this weekend.